welcome to the 4Corners podcast. I'm Brad, joined as always by Matt and Shad. Oh, no,
Close.
Matt. Sorry. Um,
Like
Damn it.
I
I
said,
was even telling
close.
myself, sorry, reflexes kicked in there. So Matt
Yeah.
is Matt is on vacation this week, so it is just Shad and myself.
And these always open up a way for us to get into more niche topics that perhaps the other isn't as much into. Uh, I am not a big Joshi person, so whenever we get into that, or whenever I'm not here, they tend to dive into that. When Matt's not here, we tend to dive into some perhaps more nerdy aspects. And then, if Brad's not here, then what did we do? Is
it was right after the Vince McMahon allegations, I believe, is the one time
that
I've
what it
missed.
was?
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, Usually Matt and I just go off on some tangent about toys and Star Wars and
Yeah, that's true. That happens
Marvel.
also.
So what we've got for tonight is we've got our match of the week, which is going to be a shorter one. It's from like Ring of Honor, and it's Super Dragon versus Excalibur, and then we're going to be talking about some of the WWE stuff because they've been kind of just absolutely flailing about like a fish out of water.
Yeah, it's been uh it
I
has been something else.
What I don't get about it in particular is they 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 know from repeated instances, and it should just be historical knowledge that doing an angle where you're talking about how bad the product is a terrible wrestling angle.
What you're doing is if you go out there and say stuff like, "Oh, the angle's so bad or this is going so badly or something like that," all you're doing is telling your audience, "Hey, we suck right now. Why are you watching us?" And if you do that, your audience is going to believe you and start tuning. Oh, well, even they're saying they suck right now. Now, caveat. Also, trying to make sure I don't sneeze.
Yeah,
Hang on.
that's always a
One, two.
huge.
Caveat is that uh, they may have worn their fan base down to where it is their bedrock. It's like this is not going anywhere fan base now,
Mm-hmm.
which is a lot smaller than it used to be. So it may be that they're not going to lose more regular watchers out of it, but
The problem I think
it's not
is
going to sell any more Mania tickets. I'm pretty sure of that much.
I think that's a problem, but I think the other real danger is like if you have a hardcore there that's just been holding on just little by little, I think you run the risk of them being like, "Hey, he is right. This does suck," and turns it
Hmm.
off.
Well, look, you and I were both, and correct me if my memory's wrong here, but I believe you and I were both um, more WCW fans than WWE fans during the Monday Night Wars.
Yeah.
And even that, hanging on as long as we did, Nitro got to a point to where it was like, I can't watch this.
When they turned Sting heel in '99 is about when I checked out.
And then they started improving. I can't remember what the catalyst was, but I remember
They
watching the worst Nitro I had ever seen. The worst television wrestling show I remember seeing was, and I think it was Kevin Sullivan just desperately trying to put stuff together with the pieces he had.
yeah.
Started with, um, I think it was Rick Steiner and Sid were both heels, but they hated each other, and they were squaring off with Nash. And at the end of the show, Rick Steiner and Sid are teamed up against Nash and like buddy arms around each other stuff. And I was like, what the hell just happened here?
I think what
Where did this
happened
come from?
is I don't actually remember what happened now. I know somehow they got rid of Russo and Bischoff, and then I think like Terry Taylor and Johnny Ace were picking up the pieces of the booking.
You know, I you say that, and I believe you're reminding me of. I haven't watched the whole thing, but Sean Oliver's been going through and putting older kayfabe commentary stuff on his YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched clips from the Terry Taylor one, and Terry Taylor tells a story about when he got fired from the booking committee at WCW. He had a job at WWE a week later,
Mm-hmm.
and then after a year, 18 months, something like that, he was back at WCW again. So that timeline could line up. I'd have to go check because I didn't write anything down. I was just Terry Taylor's a he's an interesting storyteller because he doesn't talk with a lot of flair or bravado. He has a style that's very much trying to be a tell it like it is kind of style,
I
but it's
believe
an engaging one.
I believe he has to, based on what people have said, I believe he has to talk that way so he does not say the N word a lot.
Oh, oh,
That has been said
yikes.
by, because I think TNA got in trouble for him, and Stevie Ray has
Okay,
said Stevie Ray pointed him out in particular as like one of the worst like racists he came across.
yikes. Okay,
And
but in
Stevie,
any event,
well, and I think
go ahead.
there's an interesting philosophy though. Like Bill Watts has talked about how the promotion and the commissioner shouldn't be heels because they need plausible deniability. And I don't know, it just there's ways you can do the this product sucks thing without like exposing yourself. Like I think kind of I didn't like the angle, but like kind of how the Death Riders or John Moxley is kind of like, hey, all these wrestlers out here have lost their way and they need to prove themselves to me, so I'm going to lock this belt up in a briefcase until you can take it from me. Like something like that is dipping, I think, too deep into the meta, but I think something like that.
Well, that one was. I'm going to take up for it for a second because that is. I mean, part of the whole thing was that Moxley was being a giant hypocrite about it. Because everyone needs to step up and be able to take it from me, and yet what's he being is he's a chicken shit heel who's always got people helping him hang on to it. But it was not a this company sucks.
No,
It's a I see I look around and I think that all the rest of you are weak and you're not up for it. And so this is going to stay with me and stay locked away until one of you proves that you're up for it. Like that to me is
the old man yelling at clouds gimmick essentially, because it can just be like you could have done it with like Cena, but like you can even do it like with Orton, where it's like, you damn kids and your rock and roll music, like kind of something like that.
oh get a good Vern Gagne going.
Yeah, like
All right, you know what we're doing here. You know what that sign out there? That's um
you could do something
and
like that, I think.
well, you could, but here's what I have seen. In full disclosure, I don't watch their product. I don't like their product. So this is going to come from a very biased point of view, but from what I have seen, Triple H does not seem to have a grasp on how to actually book a story arc.
Mm-mm.
He takes a story and drags it along kicking and screaming for as long as he
He
can.
thinks he thinks he thinks to add what you're saying, what I've noticed with him is he thinks long-term storytelling is just taking forever to tell a story.
Mm-hmm. And missing, okay, I know we've brought this one up before, missing the point of what, like, the long Ric Flair heel runs were. Because those heel runs were always someone new shows up and beats the hell out of Flair, so Flair looks weak, and then the challenger gets a shot and Flair sneaks one out, right?
Yeah.
We're not getting that sort of stuff. We're getting
Paint by numbers.
we're getting nostalgiacs, paint by numbers, and what was the line? One of four stories.
Yeah.
Um, the other, so what happened is the scuttlebutt has been Cody and Roman don't want to work with each other because one of
Mm-hmm.
them's going to have to put the other one over. And they're split at 1 win apiece over each other right now. Neither one of them wants to give the rub to the other. And there's some stuff at play.
Which I think is
All right.
dumb. Roman's a part timer. He should put Cody over, but that's neither here nor there. As much as I have a problem with Cody, that's like the smart business move.
From the for you want the guy who's going to be on TV every week to look good. Now, the other problem is that the fans are turning on Cody because they're tired of his shtick.
And he's not. He's doing what he did in AEW, where he's refusing to, like. I think the problem is it's kind of a problem with Punk, except Punk's hasn't worn out his welcome. But Cody has this self image that he wants to project, and he won't deviate from that when it stops working.
Yeah, okay. This is my hater's going to come out for a minute. Ever since Punk got back in the ring, it seemed like everything he's done has just been Hollywood movie making. It's been reboots and retreads. And
He's like doing the greatest hits album of like.
well, I mean, even the thing with MJF was what did that end up being? That ended up being
Kind of the Raven
it's
feud from Ring of Honor.
Or I mean, it was built on, we're gonna have a bloody dog collar match like Roddy Piper and Greg Valentine did. Do you remember that? You remember? Wasn't that great? Remember? Oh, I remember. And so what's happening right now is they're split. They're like, okay, we can't have these guys face each other, so we're gonna have Roman and Punk face each other. And we did this last year, and then we're gonna have Cody, and then it's like, oh God, what are we gonna do? Are we gonna elevate someone? No, we couldn't do that. What are we gonna do? Randy Orton. We're gonna do Randy Orton. And it's like, again.
Well,
and then it gets worse.
And the other thing with the Orton though that I think bothers a lot of people is like in the initial setup, like Randy Orton was gonna kind of be a face, and I don't like Randy Orton, but like face Orton taking on a heel is sort of kind of
it's
not
different
been
than
done.
most of his career.
Well, it hasn't been done like in a long time. If you're a newer fan, it's kind of different.
Yeah,
but he's a heel, and it's just like, oh, this again.
Yeah.
And then the other problem I have with Punk is, like, Punk is still trying to play like this liberal NPC character when he lost the right to do that a long time ago. Because it's like he did this promo on like Pat McAfee, and he's like, well, you're a Republican. It's like, Punk, like, you work for a company that's been twerking for the Trump administration for the last 2 years, and it's like, and the other thing is like, and I've seen other wrestlers do that, is like, honestly, like, it comes across that you were just doing a liberal grift for ass pats on Twitter until the Fed came calling, and then you're trying to keep that veneer up while you're being their dancing monkey.
Yeah, it's don't try and come at me with that whenever you went out on a Saudi show and begged for forgiveness.
And like, it's the other thing is like,
sorry, no.
Yeah, and it's the other thing is like, I don't care like when people sign with WWE. It's the people that try to like have this, well, I'm this moral, upstanding, like liberal mouthpiece. Oh, there's a paycheck. Like, I'm gonna go to the company that like is begging Daddy Trump to show up at like a show. And this isn't, I'm not being political when I'm saying this stuff. I'm talking about the reality of it, because it's like, I'm just tired of it. It's like, so like when other wrestlers do that, it's kind of just like, I don't believe you anymore. You're just doing this because you're not getting an paycheck, and you're doing it for ass pats. But it's the thing with Punk, it's like, no, you can't do this stuff when you work for a company that's behaving in this fashion.
You can't stand here and claim that you're going to be some sort of moral center when your re-debut with the company was the phrase, I'm just here to make money.
And
it's like, look, come on, man.
And when you haven't put over a young talent once.
Yeah, and guess what? That's been pretty much the whole thing since he came back.
Yeah.
He hasn't put anybody over at all. Who did he put over? Moxley, because Moxley had enough pull in order to do something about that. And it's not like Moxley was a young up and comer. Moxley was an established top guy. So that doesn't really work. And so what we have is we have this Randy Orton feud. Uh
You know what Punk
and
is?
then
Uh,
what's that?
he is he is the hippie from the '60s that is driving a BMW, and they think they're still fighting against the man because they have a ponytail with their suit as they go to their CEO job.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what Punk's become.
Yeah, things haven't changed, but they think that they're still over here because
Yeah.
they used to be. So here's the we have this startup, and then they're like, oh, we got this big surprise coming again. Do you remember what happened with Paul Heyman and ECW? Is they had to have a surprise every show,
Hmm.
and they ran out, or the surprises weren't special. Um, well, as it turns out, we're getting the same thing. It's like, oh, it's going to be this big thing, and the surprise was having Pat McAfee turn heel and roll with Orton.
Which I thought he was a heel.
I didn't look before Pat was with WWE. I thought he was an amusing, kind of fun sport personality.
And
All right.
he was his couple of matches have been pretty good because and it's kind of an indictment on the PC Center because Rip Rogers trained him. So
Yeah.
he's
He paid Rip Rogers to train him and just him.
yeah.
Uh, but what we have is this, Pat comes out and rolling with he's rolling with Orton now, and he's talking trash about tickets not selling and that sort of stuff. And it's like, so what he's doing is calling Cody not a draw, I
He's
guess, but not saying those
he's
words.
lampshading a real issue. That's the problem.
And the issue with that is, and then Punk comes out and cuts his promo, and you know damn well that they knew what it was because they plastered it everywhere with the word pipe bomb on it because what they're trying to do is
They're trying to recreate something that was kind of like spur of the moment and
yeah,
grassroots.
they're what they're trying to do is make you think it's the same thing.
And also
And
the pipe bomb era stuff was not commercially successful, just as an
yeah,
FYI. Like we're at the
yeah,
point of
and
nostalgia where we're nostalgia in things that didn't work the first time very
yeah,
well.
we are very much on the member berries. But what happens is um that the scuttlebutt that got out is that Triple H sent Cody and Punk out to do. Cody goes out and he cuts a promo too. And what the scuttlebutt is that TKO wanted to have McAfee do all this stuff, like that supposedly it was Ari Emanuel.
Don't believe it.
All right. If
That's
that's the case,
but
then Triple H sending Cody and Punk out to do these things, which by the way, it's like the content on these is not real different. They're hitting on a lot of the same stuff. Um, in two separate feuds, like what is this supposed to accomplish?
I
What
don't
is this supposed to do?
I don't believe that at all because one Triple H tends to blame things on everyone else, but why would the owner of the company who's not a wrestling person, let's put that in context. Why would a non-wrestling person ever think this would work? Because this is the kind of thing that turns non-wrestling fans off of wrestling. For some reason, like this is one of those things that exists just in the ecosphere of wrestling. And the WWE has done this angle. They used to do this like almost yearly for a while.
So what I would say to that, Brad, is the fact that number one, someone who's not a wrestling fan saying this doesn't know that they've done this before, and then number two, they don't know that it won't work. And
But
then
but what
number
I'm saying is a wrestling fan would never have the thought process to get here because it's so counterintuitive that you have to exist inside the bubble of the WWE especially, but wrestling to like have that idea is what I'm saying.
So we've got this weird stuff going on in the build to the two main events, and neither one of them's feeling very compelling. But Roman Reigns is feeling so confident that he was on Kimmel or Colbert or something, and he was like, "Oh, it's too bad that I'm facing a guy who's just old." Like he's not tearing him down in promos. He's doing that too, but now he's going outside and yes, you're working. Yes, this has happened before. They did this with the Tonight Show before. Hogan and Bischoff and Rodman and Page and Malone, like all that happened. Lawler and Kaufman on
Yeah.
Letterman, like this sort of stuff has happened, but it's been stuff that has like the Lawler Kaufman was something that furthered that feud.
Mm-hmm.
The Tonight Show stuff wasn't great, but it quote unquote furthered the feud. It was something that was meant to like increase cultural awareness, pop culture penetration, cultural
Yeah.
awareness of what was going on. Roman Reigns going on Kimmel or Colbert or whichever and just being like, "Yeah, the guy I'm facing at Mania is old."
Yeah, and the
What
problem
does that
is,
accomplish?
well, yeah, and the other problem is, like, that's fine if you're just being a heel and like you're ripping on a guy that's clearly not old, but he's doing that to a guy that's clearly old.
Yeah. And so I'm at a loss
And Roman's not
as
like doesn't have like pop culture penetration either, which is an issue.
and so we have this moment where or we have these two builds where on one side Orton's supposed to be a heel, and McAfee's paired with Orton and talking trash about the product, going up against Cody, who the fans are kind of sick of. And then on the other side,
I would say
we've
kind of
got
is a gross understatement from what I've been seeing. Because I've seen like normie, I've seen like normal fans that I've never seen complain about the product before that have been like, I just gave up when Cody won it back. I'm not watching it anymore.
isn't that a hell of a thing? And so we've got one feud that's just not working, and then we got another feud that's I don't know what they're doing here.
It
Like
was kind of
running
working,
a
and then like I don't know what Punk and Roman did, but they went way afield of what like initially worked.
how can I phrase this? I don't know how it benefits to have Punk go into the topic that the other feud is doing. Like, if you wanted to go out and talk about, Roman going out there calling him old, and then you want to go out and say, experience, and you don't mess with the old man who's been doing something a long time because they know the tricks and like you want to go into that. Okay, we've got. I don't want to hear either one of them do it, but you've got something you can work with there.
I
But why are you going into having Punk yelling about ticket prices over here? What does that accomplish? I that's not a topic that was in this feud that I'm aware of.
Yeah, especially from someone that notoriously treats fans like shit. So I don't really.
And then you have, and then why are we crossing the streams on these? Because these feuds are separate. I don't understand what's going on. And so then what happened? The Intercontinental title they didn't have a plan for, so now they're throwing together a ladder match that's got Dominic Mysterio, who's the Intercontinental Champion, and again, I got to give him credit. I didn't think he'd pull it off, but the guy has found a way to get very over with their fan base, so credit to him. And three luchadors and Rusev, and now Ray is in the match. Okay, and then they just basically cobbled together Gunther versus Rollins, and then they just
Why isn't Rollins doing something with the Vision?
I don't know. Like
Well, I know why,
I would
because
not I would not doubt that someone could tell me, and that's you know what I'm sure at least someone somewhere has said something.
I know why.
Okay, why?
Because they are so painfully unover that it's not worth doing.
Yeah, and then so it was like, oh, we should be doing something with Gunther, shouldn't we? Oh yeah, we really ought to. And it's like,
But that match is dumb too
why
because
why are you having to slap this together?
one, why are you doing a match where neither of them should be losing? Because Rollins just came back and he
Yeah,
should be getting wins over the Vision, and then you have Gunther who, if you job him out, you just like
if
fucked
you
the
job
last
Gunther
year.
out, yeah, you just this is the guy you just had retire three notable names in the last what 6 months? I'm
Nine
gonna say
months,
6 months.
8 months.
Okay, 9 months. What in the last year you had him retire three notable names.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so why did we not have something for him? And if the answer is we did and the person he was going to work with got hurt, okay,
But we know that's not
then
true.
why did it take you so long to come up with something else?
Why has Powerhouse Hobbs not been on TV for 3 months after his Rumble debut?
Yeah. Um, because remember, they don't bench people. Sure. Why,
He's
let me
wrestling
think for a
dark
second.
matches, but
Yeah.
whatever.
I don't remember where the U.S. title is involved. I don't know what LA Knight's doing. I don't know what the tag belts are doing. Like, there's a whole bunch of and I will fully admit, part of that's I'm not plugged into it. I
I
don't
think
care,
it's
but I would think that in the realms that I float around in, I would have heard something, right? I
I
would have
think
heard
it's
about it.
I think it's LA Knight and the Usos against like the Vision in whatever form it's gonna be.
I all right, I guess.
I don't know.
Look, this just does not seem. I'm not going to draw comparisons to any other year. All right, I'm just not because that's not going to be productive for me to try to do. What I'm going to say is, doesn't this shouldn't this feel like a bigger deal than it does?
Well, we've talked about this before, and like it used to be. I don't know when this changed. I think it's more recent, but I haven't paid attention as much. It used to be you would come out of like the Christmas break and you would immediately like start getting build towards Mania. And like you would by the time
Mhm.
you got like I'll use a great example because it's a terrible fucking WrestleMania. Is WrestleMania 15 where they notoriously switched around um one of the feuds because Russo thought it was unexpected. So what happened is Billy Gunn had been chasing the IC title. Road Dogg had been
Oh
chasing the
God, that.
hardcore title, and they won them separately. But the thing is, you went into that Mania and you generally knew what the matches were.
Yeah,
Like going into like they did that, which was dumb, but like it used to be you knew most of the matches going in.
right. And now we got to whatever the February show was, and the Mania card was not set.
Well, I mean, it's not even set now. I think they'd only had like single digit matches even as like recently as a couple weeks ago.
So yeah, this is part of the. This is a good indicator to me of why I can't do this company anymore. This is one. This is not why. This is a contributing factor. If you want the why, it's that I can't stand to watch a company that has been so horrifically gross in how it's treated so many people. I just can't do it anymore. And it's boring.
What
Is one worse than the other? Yeah, one's worse than the other, but they both contribute, and I don't want to see it anymore.
and how do you get so much TV time and like accomplish so little that you don't even have like your biggest show of the year like built at all?
Yeah, it's well, I mean, that's easy. You have 3 hour shows with just 4 matches.
Yeah.
You don't you don't actually go through the effort of using the time you have available. Um, I it is, I mean, just to me, it is remarkably, remarkably bad to have a 3 hour show and 4 matches, and none of the matches are like 45-minute epics.
Yeah. Cuz
They're
like
20 minutes. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a 20-minute match. Don't mishear
no,
me.
they don't
You
even
can do,
do they don't even really do 20-minute matches anymore, except they'll throw out like 40-minute Cody matches on pay-per-view, but usually it's like you usually I think Raw is shorter now. If you but it's it it sorry, my brain locked up. Most of the matches are not that long. Like I think if you get like a 2 hour
yeah.
SmackDown, you don't even get half of it wrestling. And I think you can go too far in the other directions. Like I think AEW at points is like too much wrestling.
I would err on the side of too much
Yeah.
wrestling because then you are getting more of what you paid for.
Like
Like even if,
when they started, I think they had veered too much into it. Like 'cause you need like you do need like a counterbalance. I think they've been better the last year. They've had about the right mix
mhm,
of wrestling to angle.
yeah. Well, and I want to say this as best as I can manage. I see more of what I want to see there because I don't want to see. Here's the thing: what happens from what I've seen of WWE is that it is largely the same people in the same spots.
Oh yeah, they
Now,
haven't
can
built a
you
new
have that
one
as a
forever because that's I think that's part of the reason the product's failing is people are getting tired of who's on top and like they have done nothing to build anyone, like anyone.
yeah? And so, if you wanted, like, if you wanted to try and make, if you wanted to say, "Hey, AEW's not good, done a good job building people," okay, you know what? I can see where you're coming from. We can have that discussion.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that you're necessarily right, but I get it.
But like
And so,
I feel like you could not watch the product for 2 years. You could have stopped watching 2 years ago and tuned in for this Mania build, and most of the people would be in the exact same place as you left them.
yeah, there's not anything different. And it's like, well, what do you? I don't understand how they think that someone could get excited for it. Yeah, yeah, I don't get that at all. And so here, I'm going to divert into something else now that runs similar vein, but it's more specific. Um, Today we do this on Tuesday. On Raw, they had an angle where, and I just it was a backstage angle,
Mm-hmm.
and it was Liv Morgan and
Roxanne
um,
Perez.
Roxanne Perez have this face to face segment, and they headbutt each other in it.
Well, no, like Stephanie Vacker pushed Liv Morgan
Okay.
into Roxanne Perez, and so they hit each other, but they went like skull to skull. And I think did you see the pictures of the knot? I don't know if both of
So
them Liv had it, but they pretty much did this, and it
they
wasn't.
both did.
Yeah,
They both had like a friggin' pigeon egg.
so they both got concussions from this. Pretty much is what happened.
they're under concussion protocol.
So they probably got removed from Mania if they were trying to do something with them, because I just don't. So I watched it. I watched it 4 or 5 times because it is quick, but I was like, oh, they went like they went skull to skull, and I don't understand why they did it that way. I'm guessing it's Liv's not great. Um, like and I don't know. It was like probably a pre-tape segment. I just don't get it. Like it was so
I
stupid.
I don't understand what they. Number one, the headbutts were not done properly.
Mm-mm.
Because if you're gonna it either had to be an accident or they didn't know how to do it, because wrestling headbutts are not done with the forehead. You do it with the crown of your head. Number one, this is harder. If something bad happens to it, your hair's in the way. It's not this big unsightly swell right in the middle of your damn forehead. And so it just comes off as very, very sloppy. And
Yeah.
it's not a good look. Um, we did have someone in chat who posed a question. We can take a second to grab that.
Let's see.
Um,
What's it say? What are your thoughts on how AEW has been using the Hurt Syndicate? Do you believe they will allow Cedric Alexander to join them over AEW?
okay,
I think
I do
Cedric's in
not.
TNA. Or
I do not.
well, I don't think he's on the deal though.
I do not think Cedric will be joining, because if they had the kind of pull to get Cedric to join, I think they already would have. Um, Here's the thing. I I've been a big Shelton Benjamin fan for a long time. I have not been a Bobby Lashley fan. I've not been an MVP fan. So whenever they came in, I was not really excited for it. And they came in and they immediately got a big push and they got the tag belts. And they went from having not quarter five, but maybe quarter four regular promo segments and an angle with MJF to killing the angle with MJF, not having promo segments, and then losing the tag belts but not being pinned for them and not being on TV. Like, there something, and I can't tell you what, but something happened. And they didn't want to play ball. And if we know anything about Tony Khan's booking, he wants to make sure you're willing to play ball before he's trusting you with something big. Um, so I'm not. How how have they been used? Um, I was not a fan of how they were used at the beginning. They were probably used pretty well in that, despite what I personally thought of it. But then there was a reason that they didn't get regular promo segments. There was a reason that they weren't getting angles. It was just they're coming out here and having a match now. Like there was a reason behind that, and um, there was at least one match, and I can't remember who it was with, where it sure seemed like they went out of their way to make the people they were having the match with not look good. So, what do I think of how they've been used? It's honestly probably been appropriate.
I
Um,
I did like with their reign when they were like being dominant. I did like how you had all these teams like nipping at them though. That was
yeah,
a nice like touch. I haven't watched much recently. There's a whole story behind that. I've been on a break from AEW because I wasn't enjoying it, so I haven't been watching. I'll probably be back around when they start building up for All In, but I've been kind of on a break. So if they've been on the TV, I don't
they're
know.
just now coming back, is what's going on. And they have said we're going to bring in a new member. Now, who do I think that's, if the question is, who would I speculate that's going to be? Okay, fair enough. Because,
I would do Myron Reed, honestly. Like, give him someone young to, like, kind of
well,
give him
the other
someone kind
thing
of
that
young to mentor, like, be their young boy kind of. Well, I mean, Myron's not super. young anymore, but like, you know what I
Is
mean? Like,
Myron, is he part of the Rascals?
yeah, he is.
I mean, here's the thing. They just had the Rascals just had a match. Oh God, who are they up against? Don Callis family. The
Hmm.
Rascals just had a match with the Don Callis family, I think last Wednesday. And the match is going, but the heels decide that they don't like how it's going, so they're gonna do stuff. Okay, I mean that's what heels do. And then the thing that was interesting to me is because I had just heard some other people discussing it on another show that there's too many cases where the baby faces just get beat up and there's no comeuppance for the heels, so the baby faces just look like losers who got beat
Hmm.
up.
Yeah.
So they're beating up on the two guys and the other two rascals. Here comes Myron Reed down to the ring and he clears the ring. He runs the others off. He's fast, he ducks, he dives, he dodges, he dips, he dives. And off the ropes and jumps and flips and kicks and all that and clears the ring out, like saves the other members of the Rascals. And on one hand I was like, "Oh, that's great." What happened? Babyface ran in for the save and made the save. Cool. Cuz that's been an endemic thing in like all wrestling for a while now. And so it seems to me that the Rascals as a unit is kind of being structured as Myron Reed being the singles guy and the other guys being the
Yeah.
tag guys.
I They used to have a way of doing it back in like the 80s and 90s that would work is usually you did like the faces would usually run the heels off even if like the heels didn't get beat up. But like
Hmm.
they would send like jobbers out first so they could get beaten up and then they would just kind of overwhelm them with numbers of a couple of jobbers and like maybe some mid-card guys.
Hmm.
And then so there was like a save but like they still won that kind of encounter. But like I hate the modern wrestling though, and it saddens me because AEW was good about this for a while and they've kind of lost the plot on that. But like faces not having friends, like I think is an issue. And like I said, AEW was really good about that. Like there was an early segment with Cody when he was feuding with Jericho where like Dustin came out, MJF came out, DDP came out, and he had friends, and they haven't done um they haven't done that in a long time. There's like sadly I think AEW has taken on some like bad WWE isms over time.
I think that it would be. I think that it's easy to paint a brush and say it's bad WWE isms when there's some things that are just not good wrestling tropes in general.
Because I'll tell you when WWE was really good when Chris Kresge was writing it, and he got made fun of for this because it shows you how
Oh
stupid that
yeah,
company could be. But they said he literally had like flow charts of like
yeah. He had
relationships
storyboards on the wall of his office.
of how people had interacted, like the last time they interacted, how their feud touches into another feud, and he would reference this stuff, and like the roster felt really interconnected when he did that. You know what else really did a good job with that is when the early Power, like the way people's feuds could touch into each other, and like when guys would team up and stuff, it made sense.
Yeah.
Like it might be like, hey,
Um,
Eddie Kingston and James Storm are teaming up because their feuds kind of crossed paths a little bit.
so yeah. Um, there seems to okay. I want to order my thoughts for this. It seems to me that there has been this drive that okay, the face needs strong heels to overcome. The face side needs a strong heel side to overcome. All right, yeah, because if there's no challenge, there's no triumph. Okay. Yet If the heels are too strong, then it comes off as feudal.
Yeah,
So,
people give up. People lose hope because there's Jim Cornette talked about, I think, how the Sheik killed Toronto. Maybe might have been a
oh
different
yeah,
city.
with Andre,
Yeah, like where Andre came in and then he beat Andre with a fireball. He won by like count out, and that it killed the houses because the people were like, "Well, if Andre can't beat him, then no one can beat him," and they stopped showing
I'm
up.
just not gonna, yeah. So, if you, the idea of having strength, okay, this also blends into my um, frustration with the cool heel phenomenon. A lot of people in wrestling like being a heel because, frankly, it's easier. It is a lot easier to get people to hate you than it is to get people to like you. My first gimmick, I was a bodyguard for an incredibly cocky gimmick, right? So what was my whole thing? I was a bully. That's really all it was. I was a bully. And I got people to hate me very easily. Why? Because everyone's going to recognize that kind of behavior and everyone's going to hate that kind of behavior. But to get people behind you as a face is harder because you're trying to get people to like you.
Can I ask a
Therefore, I
question?
want to be a heel. I want to be, let me finish my thought real quick. I want to be a heel. I want to come off strong as this because at the very least, I want it to be something worth the face overcoming. But let's just say that we're out there, and I remember where it came from. It was a discussion on the passing of Dennis Condrey. And when they did the original Midnight's angle, Bobby Eaton was having a singles match. So Stan Lane and Jim Cornette got jumped by Dennis Condrey and Randy Rhodes, and I can't remember who, and Paul Heyman. Well, when Bobby Eaton shows up after hearing that his friends got jumped, he gets beaten down too. Why? Because the numbers are against him. And the but then in the case where they show up to attack two of them and the third one shows up and the numbers are even, they back off. Okay, that means that when the numbers are even, the faces are better. Your standard match structure, the faces is better in the going. That's why the heel starts cheating because they have to. If everybody wants to be a heel and everybody wants to look good, and no one, one thing that I always did as a heel, unless specifically not doing it, was if I'm beating up on someone in the ring and a face comes running out there to stop us, I bailed every time. Every time a face would hit the ring, I would bail. Why? Because if I don't, I'm taking away from that person. That face coming out there, running out there to do something should be exciting. It should mean something. I am out of the ring.
It's all,
Why? I wasn't ready for him. I didn't see him coming. Take your pick. I'm not taking a fight on his terms. I'm out of the ring. But if we had this thing where the Don Callis family's beating up on the Rascals and Myron Reed shows up and they just turn around and beat him up too, now the Rascals look like chumps. But I think that Don Callis is smart enough about the business to go, okay, whenever Myron Reed shows up, we've got to sell for him so that there's actually excitement for what's going to
you
happen.
you can. So I think it is okay if you beat up Myron Reed through sheer numbers, but you have to let him get his licks in on you first before he before you overcome him with numbers.
Right.
But I think what
Well,
people forget about the Cool Heel thing though, because they get it from the NWO. But if you go back to when the NWO was drawing, one on one, they tended to bitch out.
oh yeah, all the time. The thing about the NWO is that they always had the numbers game.
Yeah.
That was always the thing.
Except there was like a couple times, and I always loved those nitros. There would be like, I think 2 or 3 times where like the locker room just said, "Okay, screw this," and like the entire like WCW locker room just emptied out and like just pounded the crap out of them.
Yeah.
But I think that the thing though, what I was gonna ask is, so guys say like, okay, I want to be a heel because it's easier. But I think there is a misunderstanding with a lot of guys that do that because they're, yes, it's it's easy to get people to hate you. But the trick is, and where I think a lot of guys don't understand though, it's not as easy to get people to hate you, but want to pay money to see you get beaten up. Because sometimes like guys will do that stuff and get hated, and people are just like, "Fuck this! I'm not coming to the show anymore."
Yeah, there has to the ultimate point of a heel is to lose. Ultimately, a heel's going to lose. You in the United States, maybe Canada too. Okay, the old saying was in Canada it's a tradition, in Japan it's a sport, and in America it's a joke. I get where that's coming from, but the thing is, in America, wrestling is at its base a morality play. It is us looking because in day-to-day lives, we don't get to see the hero run up to the thing that wronged us. We don't get to be the hero, tape up our fists, run up to the person that wronged us, and just beat the hell out of them. We
Yeah.
don't get that. That means that in wrestling, the point of a heel is ultimately to lose, which, by the way, is another reason that I just despise Triple H because he would never do that.
Well, he wanted to cosplay like 80s NWA, and it's always funny because he has this concept of like this long-term dominant heel that he thinks was like a thing in the 80s. And like it is true, the champion tended to be a heel, but if you were like, let's say, a fan in Texas, like Ric Flair probably only came through 4 times a year, and he would defend the title then, and he would be a heel, and he would get out of your local face. But the thing was, that was 4 times a year. Your week in, week out top champion, which would be like if you're in Texas, like the America belt, like the North American belt, and Mid South, the Mid
Yeah,
Atlantic belt.
yeah.
Those titles did not have long term heel reigns. A lot of them changed hands every couple of months, and some of them were just straight up dominated by baby faces because that was your guy that was there every week. So like
And that's who people liked and wanted to cheer for.
so these people that talk about like the chase and all this stuff, like yeah, there is money in that, but the problem like with WWE, but a lot of wrestling companies, like so this is not purely a WWE problem. It was a WCW problem. It was a TNA problem. Um, AEW has avoided this sometimes, but they have fallen
Hmm.
into this trap. These companies fall into this idea of the perpetual chase, and then they miss the moment.
Yeah, it's okay. I know I'm going to harken back to something we mentioned earlier. I know at the time, you were really frustrated with the Death Riders angle.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I get it. The thing is, ending the Death Riders angle at the biggest show of the year was going to be the move, and they needed it to be a strong baby face to do it. Thank God it was never Adam Copeland.
Oh,
That just about turned me off entirely. Like, I would see Adam Copeland on Dynamite and just turn the TV off because I was
remember
like,
we
there
got
is no way that I want to see Adam Copeland in the main event against Moxley
remember we
again.
got Agent of Cage 2 from that feud.
Um, but ultimately, the whole point of the Death Riders thing was Moxley lost, and it was what, 8 months, which is pretty long.
Um, might have been teetering into 9 months. I'd have to look. It was about 8 months though. I'd say.
8 months, and it was pretty long, but it fed into Hangman Adam Page defeating Moxley, winning that title, and there was this huge, big, cathartic, feel good moment.
My
Okay.
problem with it was structural. Like so, my problem with the matches in general, which I think the matches were generally pretty bad, except the Samoa Joe match and the trios match where they won the belts, is where the structural part of the matches sucked was there was no point getting invested in anything until every member of the Death Riders had come out.
And that's fair. That's entirely fair. It did take away a lot of that. One thing that I had encountered, and I wish I'd written it down so that uh, I could reference it, but apparently Mox was working hurt for a lot of that. And so the matches were not good because he's trying to work around that injury. Okay, like that adds a little bit to it. That's not great, but that adds a little context. But ultimately, what was going to happen? Mox knew full well that at the end of it, he was going to lose it to somebody that was going to just absolutely beat his ass. That was going to be the big payoff. Okay, cool. Um,
But the
the end of
thing,
the belt collector gimmick. It was this whole, Kenny Omega's running over all over everybody, but it's taking a toll on him. And again, Hangman's the one that takes him down. Heels ultimately have to lose, which means they
yeah,
can't be invincible all the time.
because the problem, as I see it, is if I were to look back over the last, let's say, since 2010 in North America, I can
Hmm.
only think of two instances of like true feel good moments where the face won at the right time. I can think of two. I can think of Adam Page last summer and Bailey beating Sasha Banks in NXT. Those are the only two that come to mind of this happening.
From a long term thing, or
From them paying off the face winning at the right time. And it
oh,
being like a true
um,
feel good moment that didn't get like screwed in some way.
okay, I'm gonna throw another one at you. Um, and maybe the timing was probably off on this one, not because there was something wrong with it, but um, because injuries got in the way and that sort of stuff. But international title return match: John Moxley versus Orange Cassidy, and
It,
Cassidy beat him.
yeah, I'd have to go back to that one, but that did have a good payoff though because that first match, like where they really like he bloodied Orange Cassidy up and they really made you
Hmm.
like root for him. That one might be up there, yeah. So okay, three times, but like that shows you how little they get it right.
Okay, I'm going to push back just a little bit and say that it might be when they got it exactly right. Because there have been other cases where they've gotten it right, but not as right as it should have been.
Because someone might throw at me like also I'm gonna go ahead and head this one off because someone might come at you with Daniel Bryan winning at WrestleMania the first time, and my caveat to that would be it was so obvious they got drug kicking and screaming into that it did affect the moment, and then they didn't do anything with them afterwards.
That's yeah. That the Danielson winning that, great. That 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 big win, ending that mania with that, excellent. Um, but it was soured by what followed it. And
Yeah.
yes, it was the fact that it's not the build up a couple of months beforehand, and it was very clearly a change that they were forced into does affect it. I would
Remember,
say that
this
there
is
are
one
going to
of
be cases where I'm sorry, hang on, there are going to be cases where it may be that there were good wins, but like I mean really nailing it, really sticking the landing at the exact right time.
they've been trying to do revisionist history on that for like a decade now, and some people do parrot it, but no one believes them because I will tell you exactly why it was not part of the plan. In Shadow, remember this. Remember, they were trying to get the Yes Chance over to Big Show.
They were trying to get the yes chance over to other people
Yeah,
because the justification was it's the chant that's over, not the guy.
and they were trying to do that with Big Show, and it didn't work.
And they tried it with Stephanie McMahon too.
Yeah,
And there have been okay, I think that in general in booking it can be hard to land it exactly right. It's there's a lot of moving pieces, that sort of stuff, and it can be hard to land it exactly exactly where it probably ought to be.
yeah, I agree.
But the problem is, this might be Captain Hindsight stuff here. Captain Hindsight, you should have done
Mhm.
this. But for me to turn around and point at some stuff and gone, this is where it should have happened, and it should have been a layup. That's okay. Here, I'll give you another example of where I thought it was a really good one. Is Eddie Guerrero wins the world title.
Yeah, that one is
Eddie,
good.
Guerrero,
That
yeah,
that predates 2010 though, so
it does, but it's not an easy you know, if you're going to do all of this build and all this to get there, then by hell you better pay this off, because otherwise you're going to piss off your fans. Also known as Triple H as a heel winning at
yeah.
WrestleMania multiple times.
Luger beating Hogan on Nitro, I think, is the prime example of the aftermath did not matter because the moment itself was so strong.
That was one of those that it wasn't even led up to it, bless you. Like they didn't even lead into it. It just kind of Luger went out that night and said, "I'm the number one contender. I want it now." And Hogan's like, "I'm not going to give it to you." And the authority figure, who I think was J.J. Dillon or
Yeah.
something, was like, "Yeah, we're doing that."
Well, no,
And
remember they were doing it at the pay per views, so they did it a show early, but they had been building
yeah,
to it for like 6 months, and he'd already beaten Hogan. Like they did in June, they did like a non-title match that was kind of spur of the moment, and Luger beat him
yeah.
on that one too.
Well, and it was. Here's the thing: is it was a um, that was a it was a it was a hope spot in the middle of that Hogan run. Because what happened is Luger lost it 5 days
Yeah.
later to typical NWO bullshit.
And they'd also, this is the other thing though, I think WWE fails at a lot, but they'd also, Luger had also been winning like a shitload of matches to be like that little ray of hope
Yeah,
going into that for months.
yeah. Well, Luger and Giant and DDP were the guys at the front of that whole charge.
Steiners.
The Steiners were there with them. And so you had these rays of hope and you had these wins take place and you had this stuff happen. So having Luger, pull it off in the face of all of that, even if he lost it right back, he wasn't weakened by it because it took Nash with a baseball bat to get that thing back off of Luger.
Yeah.
And so
They wasted on Road
there
Wild
are
though.
times and places where it ought to be a layup, but there's also times where it's kind of difficult of when do you make that call.
And
As an
they,
example of the difficulty, when Tony Storm was going to lose the women's title, when do you make that call?
yeah.
And they picked their shot and they were like, okay, we're going to do it now, and this is what we're going to do. And they went with it, and they gave Statlander
They
they gave
missed.
Statlander a good faith effort. I would say, was it perfect? No, it
And
was not perfect.
it clearly didn't work, but I mean, that happens
It
sometimes.
didn't it didn't land the way they were hoping it would. Stat is
She's just not,
over,
she's
but
not that,
she didn't take off the way that they were hoping she
she's,
would by having her end Tony's reign.
she's over, but she's not championship level over. And I just don't think like I don't know, like I I kind of eyeballed it when they did Statlander and I didn't know if it would work and it kind of went the way I thought it would. She just doesn't have she just how do I say this? Because she is over and like people like her and she is good, but she's missing some element you need to like to be that next level. And it's hard to be the guy after the guy too.
Yeah, that's another thing that happens is the face wins, gets the big win, and then everything you've put into it has been this face chases this win, and when they finally get it, what do you do with the after that? And that's been a difficulty for bookers for decades.
Yeah.
Is okay, now you have uh now what?
Well, I
Because
think
you've gone from this scrappy chase to are they going to be dominant? Are you going to have them as the champ and fighting from underneath? Like all that sort of stuff. And that's
well,
hard.
and I think the other thing Booker's faced with that too, and I think they panic a little too much over sometimes is I think when you have that big crescendo, even if you stick the landing with the face after that, business is going to go down a little bit because
Right.
because you hit a high point and you need to build back up. And I think they panic when houses start going down. And I think if you just stayed the course better and realized, yeah, it's going to go down for probably 2 or 3 months until you get like the next thing like off the ground.
We just had our gigantic dopamine hit, and we're all like, oh, okay, well, he's not going to lose it for a little while. I'm good. And then, so yeah, interest drops off a little bit because you just got your big emotional payoff.
Yeah. And I think the problem is, and I think wrestling has fallen into that a long time. They always think like the line needs to be going up.
Yeah.
So so person in chat, I've always said I think that match should have just been Sting comes out and beats Hogan in 30 seconds and just
Sting
um
should have just come out, beat the shit out of Hogan, and won. That's what that should have been. Guess what happened?
yeah, that was so
Hogan.
stupid.
And
And then
like,
they
if you want to have the thing where Bret Hart gets involved because he just came over from WWF, and you want to do something with, okay, you know what? Fair enough. You go out there, Sting's just beating the shit out of Hogan, and then here's what I would do. Sting's out there, he's beating the shit out of Hogan. Here come the NWO guys to do NWO things, and you have Bret Hart jump the rail from the other side with a bat or something in hand and just start mowing through the NWO guys as they come up the ramp. Because the whole point of having Bret restart the match was, I don't want to see someone get screwed the way I did. Don't do
yeah.
it that way.
Or just have him in the crowd and have him jump the guardrail and challenge Sting at the end of the show.
I mean, the way that they did that robbed it of all of its emotional momentum.
Well, and then there's the aftermath. They did the rematch that had controversy the next night on Nitro that you didn't see. I don't know
And
if you
they've
person in chat. I don't know if you were
vacated and
there.
held up the title.
Well, remember they didn't show the ending on Nitro either. They left it on a cliffhanger. Then they did the vacating thing, and it just that was like the worst possible.
That there was no good. You spent 2 years of Sting being the superhero that comes out and wrecks the whole NWO, and then we can't put him over strong because Hogan couldn't deal with it.
Yep.
This goes back to why we said whenever Hogan died, we were like, well, we can appreciate the impact he had on the business, but him.
I mean, that's the thing. I think the thing people still don't appreciate about Hogan is he led 2 boom periods because
he did lead 2 boom periods. And you know what else? Fuck him.
Yeah, because I think what people don't understand and what WWE in their kind of revisionist history doesn't admit is the attitude would never happen if WCW one didn't start pulling people back into wrestling and make it cool with the NWO and then forcing Vince to change things.
Yeah. The NWO the Attitude Era was a reflection to be more like NWO stuff. And then they brought on Russo, so you had all this crazy raunchy stuff piled into it.
You know what? I watched a bunch of like '97, and you know what stuck out to someone that wasn't a wrestling fan, and they asked why don't they do that anymore? Do you want to take a guess from that era of Nitro?
Why don't they do that anymore?
Why no one has ever done this before?
Why no? Wait, hang on. Let me.
So there's a specific thing that they were doing with the NWO angle. It was a specific segment they were doing that they asked, why doesn't wrestling do something that cool anymore?
Was it this message paid for you by the NWO stuff?
They were doing paid commercial. They were buying. They were in angle buying commercials on the programming and doing them in these cool black and white things just to talk about how cool they were.
There's a funny story that Nash told about it because right after Hogan's turn, they're cutting promos, and Hogan's doing his normal thing, but as a heel, and Hall and Nash look at each other and go, "This ain't gonna work." And they stopped everything and they're like, "Look, this is not gonna work. What can we do to make it different?" And I don't remember who he credited coming up with the idea about, but the whole thing was instead,
It was probably Hall.
I don't know. I'd have to go back and find
Hall
it.
came up with all that crap. He came up with the crow.
Well, it might have also been a production guy who was like, "Oh
Yeah,
no, let's try this with it,"
that's true.
and that production guy might have done it. I don't know,
Because
but
because because the Hall thing is true. Because even Sting said, "Yeah, Hall came to me with this idea."
Hall came to him and said, "Hey man, have you ever seen The Crow?" And Sting was like, "I haven't seen it." He's like, "You should watch it," and that's where Crow Sting came from. Like Hall was, how can I put this?
He made the
If
mask
Scott
cooler.
Hall, if Scott Hall had been able to, for lack of a better term, if Scott Hall had been able to master his demons and stay sober, I think that Scott Hall would be a good elder statesman and an incredible creative person to have around.
Well, like remember he put Jericho over, and I don't think he was
Yeah,
supposed to.
nope. He was not supposed to do that, but he did it anyway. He did that for somebody else too.
Hector Garza.
Right. He was not supposed to, but he was like, it ain't gonna hurt me. It's not, it wasn't gonna hurt Hall standings, but it was gonna make those guys look amazing.
Yeah.
You know, it's like where the other thing that Scott Hall said was, I want to look like a wrestler who lifts weights, not a weightlifter who wrestles. And frankly, I think that made him look a hell of a lot better in the ring.
Well, he's a very interesting like body type. 'Cause he's very bulky, but he's like lean. He looks like
He's
just a tough guy.
Yeah, that's it was kind of the UFC build pre-UFC,
Yeah. Oh,
where he
and
was in shape and he was, he was in shape but he wasn't bulky.
yeah,
So he looked like, he looked like an in shape martial arts guy, kind
kind of
of
like
a
Randy
little
Couture,
bigger than
kind of
that,
like
but
Randy Couture if he was a little like bigger.
taller.
Well, I meant like, well, maybe when he's a heavyweight, or actually, who's a good body type match is Andre Arlovsky.
I mean, look him up real quick because I know him, but I don't remember.
Yeah. And he did it with Waltman in WWE too. Like Waltman was a jobber until he beat Hall
Hmm.
on Raw.
Okay, yeah, yeah, I agree with you. Like, no one's gonna say that Andre Arlovsky was a scary dude.
Oh, he still
Um,
fights. He was in UFC
oh, I
till
didn't know he
recently, and
did.
he's doing the bare knuckle boxing now.
Okay,
I think he won his
so
first 2 fights in that.
yeah, so let's go ahead and pivot to our match of the week now because we've rabbit holed this
Yeah.
really hard.
But
Um,
we have a delightful little treat for you, and I actually want to do more on. I want to do some more stuff on SoCal indie wrestling from like the aughts. This really wet my whistle. So this is from like an ROH show, and this is Excalibur, noted AEW announcer Excalibur before he retired, against Super Dragon. This is like a short little match.
Super Dragon.
Yeah.
I'm not
And
gonna be that guy.
and so this is an interesting little match because Super Dragon kind of has a reputation that I would say is probably earned to a degree, but he's an interesting worker to watch in this match because there's a lot of smoke and mirror stuff that he does in this match that I've really found interesting. Because there's one thing I really thought Shad would appreciate because we had just bitched about this with Nigel McGuinness and the ring post. So there's like a spot where they're on the top rope and he's shoot headbutting Excalibur.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look real close, he's doing it in his shoulder.
Yes, he is not.
He's not
He
being
is
stupid.
working his headbutts, and it's like, dear God, why is this such? Okay, let's set this match up a little bit. Just from the presentation, if you go and watch this match, it was in Ring of Honor. This match is a little weird.
It's kind of an
because
exhibition match.
It's an exhibition match, and the crowd is not into it.
Yeah, because they could be real pricks about wrestlers they didn't know in this ROH.
So these are, I think you said these guys hadn't been in ROH before.
Super Dragon might have been, and I think, I don't know about Excalibur. I know Super Dragon had done like CZW, so people would have known him.
But they would have been of the opinion of he's not one of ours.
Yeah, and like I think to set this up for maybe someone younger that comes across this at some point, like the aughts do seem like the modern era, but like you were getting a lot of you had to get DVDs to see a lot of wrestling stuff. So like stuff
Yeah.
on the West Coast and like workers that were primarily on the West Coast were not super well known in the
No.
Midwest or on the East Coast. Like you had your workers, like unless they came over like Super Dragon did. Like you knew the name Excalibur because like you kind of knew what Pro Wrestling Guerrilla was like in 2005 and
Yeah.
2006, and you might find some matches to download, but like you either had to spend like 20 or $30 for a DVD or you just didn't like encounter
Yeah.
the workers.
And that was per show. You're buying a
Yeah.
DVD per show like 6 months after the show
Yeah.
happens. So this match kicks off, and so these guys do something that is normally uh, not well regarded. Both of their ring gear completely covers their body. Um, I couldn't do that. My it absolutely burned me up. Like it absolutely I sweated from every orifice twice whenever I did that. Which as I went on, I had a long pants singlet look,
Mm-hmm.
which oh my god felt so much better. So it let so much heat out. Um, Now, Brad, you kind of picked on Excalibur's
I picked on
gear
both
for a
of
minute,
them
but
because the thing with Excalibur's gear is it needed something. He was
well, go ahead.
it was a little plain, but also I also think his gear wasn't flattering because he's very skinny, and
So,
his outfit attire really shows off how skinny he is.
so Excalibur's wearing a black bodysuit that's got like this silver pattern on it.
And he's got like
Okay.
skulls on his knees, and like he's got the mask, obviously.
So the thing about it is, and like I'm in the costuming community a lot right now.
Hmm.
If you're gonna be wearing a skin tight bodysuit, they don't typically look great unless you're a little bit bigger up here.
Yeah.
Unless you're broader or you're built out or something like that. And it's just the way that it falls on your body. Now, Excalibur's obviously in shape, right? Like he's in shape. It's just being thin and wearing a skin tight bodysuit like that is just
And
not terrifically flattering.
he's wearing black too.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Dark gray. I'm sorry. I'll be fair. Dark gray.
that's typically a choice because it looks a little more slimming and it's more of a complimentary choice
Yeah.
if you're wearing one of those. But
And there's not like a lot going on to like distract you. Like if you look at like let's use Lager kind of as a comparison here.
mhm,
Like Lager does have like I would say it's like a bodysuit, but like his
mhm.
suit has a lot going on. Like there's shapes, there's like contours and stuff, so it kind of like draws attention away from whatever's going on with his body. Like it just
it breaks up the look so it doesn't look like one solid thing.
yeah.
Whereas Excalibur, like I said, it's got that silver pattern on it, and here's the thing. I think that gear probably looked great. You get it out and you look at it and you put it on and you stand in front of the mirror and it probably looked great.
And it's
But
probably
the problem
comfortable.
is, yeah, in motion, it did not work as well.
Cuz he's he's a little kind of lanky too. Cuz
He's very lean.
I think he would have looked better because I think like Super Dragon had a baggier outfit. And I was
Oh
looking at him.
yeah.
I'm like, Super Dragon, like you could have gotten away more with what Excalibur was doing because you have like some size to you. Like you're obviously not a small guy. And then at the same time, like Excalibur, you might have wanted to consider what Super Dragon's doing, like do the baggy pants and stuff to kind of like hide your size a little bit.
So there is a conundrum when it comes to wrestling gear, and it's always difficult. Is finding the look that is the most flattering for you is always hard
Or
because
if you're a heel, unflattering, like doing what Eric Embry
yeah,
does. Like,
oh yeah,
like if you're a heel and you've got like a bit of a gut, I think a legitimate option, like just get some standard pair of tights and just get them up under your guts, so like your guts hanging out and stuff, just to get
yeah.
people like against you. Like, I think that's a legitimate option.
Do something that accentuates you not being someone to cheer for.
Yeah,
Um, And so,
Or do that, get mismatched boots color wise, like just to
yeah,
like
just look like a douchebag. When my
yeah.
first gimmick, I had a T-shirt that was a tap out T-shirt. Okay, I didn't know it at the time. I got a thyroid condition. I'm having a hell of a time getting weight off. I always have. I intentionally bought the tap out shirt that does not say tap out across the chest. It wrapped around the side, which made me look heavier because there's this big thing that's across the side and accentuating that I'm not trim, which reminds you of that fat ass that's always at BW3s watching UFC going, yeah, I could do that. These guys are pussies. Like I did that intentionally to piss people off. And most folks never even thought about it. They just hated my guts, but it was a move to make it look bad.
Or like
But these
Eric
guys,
Embry would always look like he just went out behind the studio before the show and like rolled around in the dirt. Like he
yeah,
always,
he always looked sleazy.
yeah.
And it's hard to break down the why, but he had it figured out. So they have this match, and at the very beginning, they did something I really appreciated. These guys have a grapple section that, and look, I'm not a big grappling guy. Maybe it's PTSD from doing jiu-jitsu and being really, really, really bad at it, or maybe it's
Yeah, I think the exposure to like legitimate MMA kind of can make this stuff. Because I pick on Zack Saber Jr. a lot because I do watch a lot of MMA, but when he does a lot of his stuff, and you've like watched like legitimate MMA, you're just like you've
hit him.
obviously never
Yeah, just
like
hit him.
you've never well it's like you've never grappled with someone trying to actively resist what you're doing if you're doing this
Yeah.
like grapple fuck stuff as I call it.
So, um, the thing the thing that happens is they have this grappling section at the beginning, and it does not get self-indulgent. That's the thing that makes me happy, is it does not get self-indulgent until they do the knuckle lock section, and that's a little bit too on the nose for me, but then they get back out of that. And what I'm seeing is they are going for holds and they're going for throws and stuff, but the progression makes sense because it's the beginning of the match and they're just grabbing for whatever opportunity they can because it's the beginning of the match. I'm trying to find where to get my leg up, and it's okay, I got this headlock. Oh, he rolled out of it. He's got the head scissors. Okay, I'm gonna roll out of that. But if I do that, I can get to his leg. Okay, now like it feeds very nicely, and it makes it look like still Larry Zabisco thing. They're playing a human game of chess. Where can I get my advantage at? Now, they get to a point where the match just kind of turns into Super Dragon beats the shit out of Excalibur for most of the match.
Which you kind of expected from the start.
And it's a um it's I mean, it's not bad. I was just kind of hoping for a little more back and forth on it.
I think like I think I should have commented earlier. Super Dragon does have a certain aura about him.
Super Dragon was I'm gonna say this from the perspective of somebody that did not watch his stuff back in the day. Super Dragon was this name that I would always hear floating around. And here he is, he's doing this cool stuff and he's doing these things that doing because he figured out it kind of seemed like he was okay, this is going to be a weird statement, but roll with me. It feels like Super Dragon was who Reckless Youth was meant to be. Does
Yeah,
that make sense?
yeah. He's kind of like the natural evolution of like Reckless Youth, I think.
Yeah. And so Super Dragon ended up being this guy who did innovative stuff and innovative cool stuff and kicked the shit out of people, and so you got these really cool got to see these really cool things. And one of the things was the advent that we got to see in this match of if he wasn't the inventor, then he certainly
I'm
popularized.
pretty sure he invented it.
Right. I wasn't sure. I'm covering myself, but
Yeah,
we see the first use of a move referred to as a curb stomp here.
yeah,
Now,
and
Super Dragon's curb stomp, he doesn't. What he does is he hooks you up
he
like
pulls
he's
your
going for
arms
an
back.
Indian deathlock,
Yeah, and he pulls your
pulls
arms
your
back.
arms back, puts his foot on the back of your neck, and then stomps and lets go of your arms.
It,
It looks brutal.
it looks like he just like been marathoning American History X.
Yeah, it is brutal.
And it looks cool as shit. But my problem is Excalibur kicked out, and I'm like, that was such a cool finish that like he didn't
Yeah,
do.
that should have been like that was so damn cool and such an exclamation point that I think Daniel Garcia started using the curb stomp,
Yeah.
and frankly, it's a good choice for him
I think like
because
those tall. You know who the kind of guy I think should be doing this move, and I've seen a guy do it, and it worked really well for him. If you're a tall, lanky guy doing professional wrestling, this is a perfect move for you because you got all that limb to like make it look cool. Like you can get your like leg up there and like look, if you're
you
a
can
tall,
stretch it out,
yeah,
look really big.
yep. If you're a tall, skinny guy, you should be doing this, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
and so um, now
I know.
if I'm gonna have a qualm when Super Dragon does the curb stomp, he puts his foot on the back of Excalibur's neck. I don't love that.
Yeah,
I don't like the idea of putting your foot on the back of the neck or the back of the head because to me that seems like that's inviting injury with just one wrong slip.
yeah,
I feel like that you pull them up, you put your foot beneath the base of their neck but above between the shoulder blades, do
hmm
the same thing, you get the same look
yeah.
and there's less chance of something bad happening.
And it looks. I think it looks just as good too.
I
Because
think
I don't think like I think someone like you would notice that's done like work and you tend to pick up on this stuff. But I think like a layman or not
mhm.
someone that hasn't been a worker would probably miss it because like I've learned to pick up on a lot of stuff, but there are little things Shad all the time points out from like a worker's perspective that I still don't see. Like I've gotten better at it because Shad's helped me. Like like things that Shad has helped me see better in wrestling. Positioning, footwork are the two things like Shad has really like educated me on to like pick up on. And you'll see me bitching about guys with like bad position or bad footwork, and that's because Shad has beaten it into me over the years. Um, but that's something that you don't see like your average fan
No.
talk about. But that's that doing a show with a worker, like I said, I'll be like, yeah, that footwork shit. And then like
Well,
you might see it, but that's because, like I said, I've been doing a show with a worker for a while, and you're just like, yeah, this is why this and that and all that stuff.
and it's not something that stands out by itself. It is something that you'll be like, "Oh, that didn't look good," but you have a hard time putting a finger on why.
Yeah,
Um, so they had this match, and it turned. Now, here's the thing: the grappling's good, and Excalibur's holding his own, and then Super Dragon takes. Okay, cool, fine. It's an exhibition match. Super Dragon's the name. All right,
and there's a
and he
couple
does.
points that look just to add to what you're saying with the grappling. There's a couple of points where they like step out of holds with a little resistance, and that bothered
Mhm.
me at first. But then when I was like thinking about how they were doing the grappling, they were just doing clean breaks. Essentially, is what it
Yeah,
is.
they did clean breaks to get away from it and be like, okay, nope, this isn't going anywhere, getting out of it.
Yeah,
So the other guy didn't have an opportunity. So he does this curb stomp spot, and I'm like, that's cool. That's not the finish.
I know that should have been the finish.
Mm.
It would have been
And
great after that. It just I know they'd probably do it differently this long time ago. But if he'd done that double stomp off the top rope, which we'll talk about that because there's something weird with that. But if he'd done the double stomp and he just flipped him over right into that curb stomp, that would have been a great ending.
yeah, so the curb stomp, I want to bring up another point with it too. The move we know as the curb stomp in contemporary wrestling is not the same one.
Mm-mm.
Seth Rollins' curb stomp, look, here's the thing, it looks great. And the thing that I like about it, it looks great and it doesn't have a barrier to use.
Yeah.
Because the guy you're doing it, it doesn't matter how big the guy you're doing it to is. It doesn't matter how small you are. If they're getting up and they're on their hands and knees and you jump and you put your foot on the back of their head and you force it down, it's gonna look brutal. Excellent choice. Really like it. I
Especially in a
think that,
company where you're going to be a smaller guy when they like bigger
yeah,
guys. That's a good move
well,
to.
you're gonna be a smaller guy and the camera angles are going to be more intense.
Yeah.
So I feel like it is. And one, if you want to be a dick about it, you can really be a dick about that one. But it's also easier to take care of somebody with, to not murder them with that style of curb stomp. Because if I run and I jump and I go and I put my foot up and do the curb stomp, all I have to do is keep my foot in contact with you, and you can control your own drop to the mat. Whereas Super Dragons is just like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, I better turn my head before, oh god, here it comes, wham, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't, I find great value in both of them. I do wish they had different names, but I don't know what I would call them.
I think
And
the
we go into them. Go ahead.
problem is the curb stop works for both of them.
It really does. It's a good name for both of them.
Yeah, because like you said, they both work really well.
Yeah,
Seth Rollins is a little more flexible. I do think the Super Dragon version looks cooler, even though it loses some flexibility. But
yeah. So Brad mentioned we go into the finish here, and the pin comes from Super Dragon doing this flying double stomp. I don't love a flying double stomp as a choice in general because it's really hard to not kill somebody with it. Like the best person I have seen doing it is probably Finn Balor. And even with Finn Balor doing it in the safest way you can, that's still rough.
I've seen some Joshi girls do it. Okay.
But the
Also,
thing about this is, oh, go ahead.
we are slowly converting Chad to Joshi. If you're watching this, he's been enjoying some of the stuff You liked
I,
Mayu and
I,
Suzume.
I look. Okay, here I'll put it this way. I appreciate the work. I appreciate how good they are. It is not my style.
You did like Mayu and Suzume though because of the I'm so much smaller and weaker than her. I have to keep hitting her on the move, or she's going to kill me.
Yeah, and they're like I said, they're very good. I appreciate what they do. I just don't. I don't know what it is. It does not hit for me the same way it does
You
for you
did like
guys.
you did like Starlight Kid and Azumi.
I, I could say the same thing again, but you're just gonna say the same thing again.
There are things you like though because
Yes.
like you're very taken with the progression of holds. Like you like the Surrey match we watched and how every time she went for the arm bar, it got harder and harder for the other girl to get out of it.
Yeah. I appreciate it, and they have some tendencies and some tropes that they use that I really like. And there's some stuff that they can do that you just don't see in other wrestling. Because they're, I guess, for lack of a better term, their strength to size ratio is very, very different in a
Yeah.
very good way. Um, they're not as big, so you don't have to be as strong. So you have them doing some wacky stuff. Um, in any event, here we go. We've got the finish of the match is Super Dragon does this flying double stomp. He does not like pull his knees to his chest on the way down or anything. It's like he hops off and it's like a standing double stomp. He's
Hmm.
upright the whole way. And we can't see how he does it because the frame cuts off above his impact where his feet land. The tricky thing to it is that there's two sounds that happen. There's an initial sound of impact and then there's a follow-up sound of something hitting the mat. but
because
Super Dragon doesn't like hit and go to his knees or anything.
I don't think he made contact with that. Because Chad had to go back and look because I made some comment about it, and Chad had to go back because he doesn't land on Excalibur, but he does. There's. I wish they had caught it better because there's some smoke and mirrors that he does that makes it look like he made impact, and I don't know quite what he did.
I have a theory, but like I said, it cuts off at where he's coming in. There's a camera cut right in the middle of the jump, and the second camera is cut off. It like whenever Super Dragon's coming down, his feet go out of frame.
Yeah, because
I had this.
they were both because the reason it does that is they were both out of position to catch it properly, so they edited it
Yeah,
weird.
yeah. I mean they edited it for the best look they could get out of it, but
Yeah, but
they
they didn't
weren't
have good angles on it to begin with.
right. So my theory is that Super Dragon jumps and he does not land. He lands the balls of his feet on the mat, like right next to Excalibur,
Mm-hmm.
and then drops his heels there. It's not a great theory, but it's the best one I can come up with.
Yeah,
Um,
I might have to look up other matches
More
of his.
instances.
Yeah,
Um,
because I found some stuff. I found a bunch of stuff with him in Blitzkrieg that I'm
that's I always
putting
liked
in the vault.
Blitzkrieg.
Yeah, he was a
Blitzkrieg
SoCal.
was
He was a SoCal guy too.
the thing about Blitzkrieg that I think I liked so much was the fact that the guy was he was very much a luchador, but he also had a different edge to him,
He was kind of
which
what he was kind of what I would call like a proto aughts indie worker before that was like a thing.
yeah. So it was just a little different, and he's doing a lot of luchador. He's doing a lot of cruiserweight stuff that we're familiar with, but he's doing it in a way that's just a little different, and it's fun to watch. It was fun to watch, and man, his Sky Twister press. That's the first time I had ever seen it. I guess it was
Yeah,
Hayabusa's Phoenix Splash, right?
I think so. Yeah, I haven't seen
Yeah,
Hayabusa in forever, so you're gonna have to forgive me on that.
I think it's the same thing, but whereas I remember Hayabusa doing the Phoenix Splash, well, the Phoenix Splash might have been what he called his 450.
Hayabusa falls on his head a little too much for my taste with when I'm
Well,
watching him wrestle. So
this was what he did. It you set up like a moonsault facing away. You jump, you twist, and you rotate to where you're landing like it's a regular splash.
mm-hmm.
And I remember seeing Hayabusa do it, and it's very fluid because Hayabusa was he could fly pretty well. But the thing about Blitzkrieg is that it feels like he tucked into it more, so his rotation was faster.
Yeah,
Um, and that was fun. It's fun to watch. That was part of what made the cruiserweights such an important part of Nitro, even if Bischoff didn't want to admit it, is that they were fun to watch
yeah.
and they were different.
So I thought this was a fun little, I don't know, sub 10-minute match.
Was it about 9:30?
Yeah, like it's not like anything special. Um, it's nothing I think I would ever. I won't probably even remember it like a year from now. It might come up randomly as a tidbit in something, but it's like one of the. But like part of why we started kind of doing the match of the week is so we can kind of hit like these little oddball
Yeah,
things.
get a grip on some stuff that we don't
And
see it.
we'd been massively. I've been trying to kind of repair it this year. We just haven't done a lot of aught stuff at all
Yeah,
during the show history, and that's not been intentional really. Like I've always thought like, oh, we need to do more stuff, and we have done stuff. We did like Joe and Necro, and we've done some other stuff, but yeah, so I've just been trying to fill in our catalog, and I really did like doing the Brian Danielson month.
that was that was really interesting because it would be hard for me to put a finger on where, but there was a point where Danielson went from being really good to crossing over into being one of the best, and
Because
I could not tell you where it happened.
there's because he's always good, like even in his early stuff he's good,
Yeah,
like when he's got the mask, but there's a point where he goes from like, oh, this guy's really good to like, this guy is like mastering his craft to the level like few people. Like
Yeah.
there's a point where like around when you get to like 2008 matches where he just has like pure command of everything.
Yeah. Yeah. He goes from being really good to this guy is a generational talent.
Yeah.
And
And his charisma is really understated in that era. I feel like he kind of got short shifted on people thinking he was charismatic.
I think that from especially from the matches we watched, he was typically being a kind of douchey heel or heel-ish.
Yeah.
Even in the match where he was on the face side, he's still kind of being douchey about it.
Yeah.
And it feels to me like people missing that is like, oh, he's great, but he doesn't have any charisma. It's like, you know why you're kind of sneering at him, right? It's like you don't like what he's doing because you kind of hate it because he's being a
Well,
heel.
I think people struggle with the idea of like body charisma and like guys that have like charisma to draw you in through their work versus guys that don't, because especially in like the aughts, it was just about moves. And
Yeah,
then and then like they'd be like, well, why don't you like that guy? And I'm going back and realizing with some of these guys, we just had this conversation about Roderick Strong with Matt, and you and I are
yeah,
more pro Roderick Strong. And what I've realized is like, oh, Roderick Strong works really well underneath, and there's all this like stuff he does that has like charisma when he works. And
yeah.
like and I'm realizing I think some of those guys like Davey Richards that I never liked in the aughts that people were always like, why don't you like them? I'm realizing it's like, oh, they don't have charisma when they work. They're just doing moves and going through the motion.
I think that okay, we had to go through. It's a phrase I'm looking for with this.
We had to get over the reaction to the 90s and 80s of like match style with going too far in the direction of work rate to come around in the 10s to be like, okay, we need this mix of work rate and
Yeah,
storytelling, which gets you to AEW, which can be a little too excessive at times, but you can like that's one thing I from Ring of Honor and the odds of watching all this stuff is I see the
yeah,
lessons that like AEW, New Japan, and like other indies have like learned since
yeah,
then, and seeing stuff where it's like it's annoying, like oh they wouldn't do that now.
yeah. We had to get through the work rate snobbishness era in
Yeah,
the time when WCW had just closed and
ECW is gone.
ECW's gone and WWE very much had the main event style, which was this slow, plodding, everyone's got to do the same stuff. Everyone's kind of trying to do a Steve Austin match, but they can't do a Steve Austin match
Because Steve Austin's awesome.
because he's Steve Austin,
Yeah,
right? Like, okay, in my work rate snobbish days in this era, my hot take was all Steve Austin does is throw punches. And he punch, punch, punch. We go to the corner, punch, punch, punch. We go over here, punch, punch, punch. I shoot you off, Thez press, punch, punch. Like, but the thing is, Austin was good enough to make that work.
and
And you don't need everybody having an Austin match.
and I the I've really come to love his Thez press because like he going back to matches he's done, he always times it perfectly for like the perfect comeback spot. Or the perfect like cut you off and like steal that shine away from you heel spot. Like he does it his timing is so good.
And Steve Austin is so good because he is always aware of where the camera is. So
Yeah.
he's staging his stuff to work for it. It's
I think
it's
he
really impressive.
I think you can tell he and Dustin worked a lot early in their careers because their sense both of them time stuff really well. Because Dustin
Hmm.
just asked this question of asking people to rate him, and I was kind of going through like what I thought about it. I said like like where Dustin is really good is his comebacks, and that's why he's such a great tag worker is because Dustin has immaculate timing for his comebacks.
Hmm.
But also, it's something I didn't appreciate till AEW when he was around some smaller guys. But Dustin also If you guys do this, honestly, it's a very rare talent. He wrestles to his size and he uses his lanky frame really well. Like, cause he got these
It
big long arms. So you know what he does? He does all this stuff where he like just punches you in the face and really
yeah.
takes advantage of those limbs.
And Dustin Rhodes is there is a cliche where, especially indie vets will say sometimes less is more. They say that because they don't want to have to do more. Dustin Rhodes is one of the people who is so good at doing more with less. Like he does stuff, but he doesn't have to do everything. He can take his shots. He can like all that sort of stuff. And it's really cool. Um yeah, I saw that too cuz he was like, if I was going to be in the top 500, where would you put me? Or would I even be there? Which I also appreciated cuz he was like, maybe they don't think I'll ever, maybe they don't think I should be there. He admitted that. Um so
I think
you have
I think I would just personally, because I did tweet at him. I said he'd be top 100 for me tag worker wise because I thought he was a better tag worker. And I told him, like I said, I don't know because I watch a lot of stuff. But I said you would be somewhere between 75 and 150 for me as a singles. And then when I started doing my own thing, I decided between 120 and 150 on a top list is where he'd probably fall as a singles. But as a tag guy, especially like his stuff with Booker T, Sammy Guevara, like
RVD.
yeah, RVD, Barry Windham, like he would be a top one. He'd probably be like I would say somewhere between like 75 and like 90 on like as a tag worker.
Like I said, he's so good at at making things work without having to do too much to make it work. It's
Good power
frankly
slam
really
too.
impressive, and I wish I could have learned from him.
Good power slam
Um,
too.
oh God, yes, Randy Orton's power slam is Randy Orton's power slam is about 85% of Dustin's. I feel like,
You know who
and I
else?
feel like Joe's is about 90% of Dustin's.
You know who else? It's not Dustin's, but you know who else has a really underrated power slam is Dean Malenko.
Hmm. I'd have to go back and watch.
He's got a really good one.
I don't doubt it. It's just Malenko did so much stuff. It's kind of hard for me to pick something like that
Yeah.
out. So
But so that is the match this week. It was like I said, I like doing these. We're gonna do some brief comic talk because comic talk. Sorry, it's getting late. Because we kind
yeah,
of went down the wrestling because a
yeah. We
chatter
want to. We
chatter
just
a chatter had some good questions that
yeah,
kind of got us on a side conversation, which is a good one. I like when people
yeah.
ask questions. But like so we were gonna do some comic talk. Shad was gonna tell me about Astro City because it's something that's on my read list that I have.
Okay. So, um, Astro City. Astro City is Kurt Busiek's passion project, and
It's
the thing that I love about Astro City, there are. So the
it's
word I'm
gone through
looking
like
for in
4
this,
publishers over the years. It kind of goes where he
right?
goes.
Because he works on it when he wants to, and that helps keep the quality up. Like this is the first one, Astro City, the first trade, Life in the Big City. Guess what? DC, right there, DC Publishing.
Yeah, this would be
I'm
this would be
sure.
from Image now.
Yeah. I'm looking for the publication date.
That would have probably
Um,
been around the late aughts because that was probably when they were doing Dark Age, I think.
Cover copyright was 2011.
Yeah.
Copyright 95, 96.
I don't remember I don't remember who had Astro City originally. Was it Dark Horse or was it Image?
I'm not sure. Um,
Maybe Image
This is
because
in the big city. This is Astro City Confession. It is really, really good. The Confessor is like, yeah, it's still got the half price book tag on it because I didn't want to go. I didn't want to peel that off there and mess
Th
up the cover.
those come off, in my experience, the half price ones come off pretty decent.
Okay. The Confessor is my favorite non-Batman Batman, if that makes sense. And it's really cool. The main character at the beginning, this dude right here, is the Samaritan, who is a time traveler who was sent back in time. His future sucked. Everything was falling apart. He was sent back in time to prevent, and like, he wasn't just sent back in time to do it. They went through and trained him and taught him so that he could fit into society. And the whole thing was, we need you to prevent, we don't know why, but the Challenger disaster is what kicked off this horrible future.
No, that's interesting.
We need you to stop that. Well, his time capsule gets thrown off because there's an anomaly. As it turns out, when his time capsule gets thrown off, he I'm looking for something real quick. When his time capsule gets thrown off, he gets a whole bunch of powers because of it, because of the stuff he goes through, but he also doesn't arrive as early as he's supposed to. So he stops the Challenger disaster. He can fly now. He's super tough. He has kind of this like electrical field thing that he calls an Empyrean web that isn't defined super well, but the interesting thing, the very first story in the very first trade is the Samaritan, and it's what, let me see what it's called. I want to make sure I get this right because I just love this story so much. Um, Forwards, forwards, forwards. It's called In Dreams because in the Samaritan's dreams, he just flies. That's all he does, is he's able to just fly. And through the course of the story, all the stuff that happens to the Samaritan in the course of a day, he's tracking how much flight time he actually gets to have going from place to place. And he, like, at the end of the day, he's like, oh, I had like 5 minutes and 34 seconds of actual flight time trying all the different stuff he had to do. Because why? He's like Superman, he can't not go do stuff, and he runs himself ragged. And it's a way of looking at him, and he's doing all of this because, it's what he was trained to do. It was what he was picked for. It was all this sort of stuff, but he's also absolutely exhausted all the time. And so you've got a Superman who's big and strong and capable and can do all this sort of stuff, but he keeps doing all this sort of stuff because he doesn't want to leave it to somebody else to have to do it. And it's this great story. Let me see. There's one. I want to find the cover. I've got two copies. Oh no, I've got two copies of Confession. What'll I ever do? Um. Oh hell, I've got it somewhere. There's one story I've got that is Tarnished Angels, about a villain named Steeljack who gets out of jail and his whole body is just covered in steel, right?
Hmm.
Which makes him incredibly heavy. He's strong, he's tough, but he's also super heavy and all this sort of stuff. He's trying to, it's the process of him trying to turn over a new leaf after he gets out of prison. And it's just, Kurt Busiek writes these stories that are so engaging and interesting and rich with character. And the people in Astro City look around like, stuff happens here. And when stuff happens, it's going to keep happening. So they take pride in, this big thing happens, and Samaritan fights this big monster and it wrecks some buildings. And what happens is, not only is the roads department out there immediately working on cleanup, but people in the city go out there and help. Why? Because they say, we get to live in a place with these people that take care of us. It's our way of showing thanks.
So it's actually like an analog of like Heroes, but not edge lorddom like a lot of them are.
Yeah. or if they are edge lords, it's either a subversion or there's a very good reason behind it. If that makes there is a character in it called the Hanged Man. It's a He's got a black body shape. There's a burlap sack over the head, and there's a noose around his neck, and he floats around sometimes. And you're just like, what the hell is that? He's not a bad guy. He looks really weird. But as it turns out, the Hanged Man has a very important purpose that you get to find out about later. It's
Yeah, because my problem is like we did was it Kingdom Come we did?
mm-hmm.
So we did Kingdom Come like probably 5 years ago now on the show.
Yeah,
And you know, it's that's what like probably 30 years old now. And I was like,
yeah,
"Oh, like Batman's lightened up a bit." And this was supposed to be like edgelord Batman back in the day, and it shows how
yeah,
like deep comics have like fallen into like the grim dreck
yeah.
that
Well, I mean,
the Kingdom Come now is
Azrael,
like nice and fluffy.
well, parts of it.
Yeah.
Azrael was supposed to be a take that at all those people. It's like, well, why didn't Batman just kill people? Azrael was supposed when John Paul Valley became Batman was supposed to be like a that's what you want. Are you sure? All right, here's what it is. Oh, don't like that so much, do you? Um,
See, I
so
don't know why people do that because they've examined that a lot in Batman, and like they've made it pretty blatantly clear that he doesn't kill because he knows he would just end up like the Joker if he killed someone.
yeah,
And like they've made
he
that pretty abundantly clear over the years. I don't know why people still try to like
because
because they just want to
it's
be.
it's a go-to hack criticism for people who haven't looked into it, and that sounds really harsh. The truth is that it is a criticism for people who haven't ever looked for an answer, and so they just stay with it.
And
Here,
and the like, how does Superman have sex with Lois Lane is funnier to like meme on. Is that from Mallrats?
yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
that's what I thought.
Here, this one right here, the Astro City Family album about a hero named Jack in the Box. He's a clown themed kind of gadget hero. Let's see. Eisner Award winner, best single issue, best new series, best cover artist. Like this,
I have all the books on my Kindle. I got them on
it's
Comixology on a sale. I just haven't. I have so comics are kind of a never-ending like um never-ending read stuff thing. You always find something
yeah.
new to read. Like currently like I'm reading well, my New Year's
It's my copy
resolution
of Tarnished Angel.
my New Year's resolution was to read at least an issue a day, which I've stuck through into April. I did this 2 years ago and I didn't make it all year, but I did make it to September. And it was really good for like getting through stuff. But like so I read a bit of this and that, like some new stuff, but I've been reading like the 60s and 70s Brave and the Bold issues when they were team up books primarily with Batman. That's what I've been reading.
You say Brave and the Bold, and the problem, my brain goes to the same place every time. It goes to Aquaman in the cartoon.
It's
That
because
is
it's the best.
contrary to what your mother said.
Yeah.
Ha ha!
Well, the actual Brave and the Bold cartoon, because that's from Harley Quinn, but like that the Brave and the Bold is the best Aquaman ever.
Well, to give a little credit, there is it was around the New 52 time. They didn't really change much, but when Jeff Johns took a swing at Aquaman right around that time period, it was a really good it was it was really good, and it was an examination of like who is Aquaman really in a really like a good it established that Aquaman is a dude who's on like Wonder Woman's level of power.
Mm-hmm.
Um and he has to encounter people saying all of the Aquaman stuff to him. It's like, so do you like talk to fish? And he's like, no, fish can't talk. Yeah, I can like I can maybe push them mentally, but fish don't talk. Like what's and they're like, how are you eating fish in a restaurant? He's like, how do you eat cow in a restaurant?
Yeah.
And he goes to stop a bank robbery, and the guys unload on him, and the one scratch they get is like one bullet hits his eyebrow, and he bleeds a little bit, and he's like, "Hmm, okay." And so
I liked
he,
the Peter David '90s series where he had the hook because he lost his hand and like that. I thought that was a good series for the most part.
I remember reading the first issue of that, and that was brooding Arthur, which
What it was
worked.
unique at the time, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it was
Well, that was
well
after
because
was
his
that
life had fallen apart,
well that was after his kid got killed, wasn't it?
probably.
Which
Like
speaking
he
of,
wasn't brooding just to brood.
yeah, speaking of, we can talk. We've bitched about before, but like killing Arsenal's kid was the worst thing DC did.
Leon Harper, yeah,
Yeah,
utterly unredeemable. Like the
Roy
I'm going to be of
Harper.
the
Roy Harper is not recovered from that, and I would argue Green Lantern like is an IP has not recovered in the comics from that. Well, then
there was
Arrow kind of further killed it.
there was no doing that was a cheap gut shot that was just meant to be a cheap gut shot. Like
Yeah,
there okay, so hang with me for a second. The term fridging came from Kyle Rayner's first girlfriend being killed off
yeah,
because she was Kyle Rayner's first girlfriend. And you know what? That was an entirely fair criticism. Like doing it to her name was Alex. Kyle called her Alex.
yeah.
Doing that to her was a cheap shot for a shock to be like, oh, this villain's such a bad dude.
Yeah.
Doing it with Leon Harper was, frankly, it was fridging but worse. Because
Well, it's
the whole
because
thing,
she had been a character for a while, and
she'd been a character for a while. She was a sweet little girl
it like
that,
allowed Roy Harper to grow up, which they decided in that era like they all have to be like 20 something douchebags
well,
perpetually.
it was a time when the Teen Titans became just Titans, not Teen Titans. So they grew. That was a time. Had that issue. Cyborg and maybe Starfire, or maybe it was Beast Boy. I don't remember which one. Were training the next round of
Oh,
Titans,
that
and
was
they were
the
just the Titans.
oh that well Jeff Johns Teen Titans was them working with like Tim Drake and Bart Allen and then those guys, but
Yeah, Tim Drake was one of them. That had a line in it that I just loved because they're doing something, and Drake's like, "Let's just go do this." He goes, "You told Cyborg we wouldn't. Did you lie to him?" And Tim Drake stops, looks over his shoulder, goes, "I lied to Batman. Let's go." And it's just like, you know, that's a hell of a line.
my favorite Damian Wayne line ever is it's when they came back with Rebirth, but they were doing something. I don't remember if it was in Super Sons or if it was like a regular book. It was around when Super Sons which came out, which is an awesome book that DC fucked up because they're stupid. But so they're Batman and Damian come over to the house and Lois Lane's like, "Do you want pie?" And so they're sitting around the table and they're all eating pie except Batman just staring at his and John Kent's like, why is he not eating the pie? And Damien's like, Batman doesn't eat pie.
that was okay. That was a take that at something else, as I remember.
Probably.
Yeah, no, I know it was a take that at something else, but I'm not going to go into
Might have been
the.
Super. It might have been an early issue of Super Sons if I had to guess.
Well, no, it was a different Batman thing, but it
No, I
doesn't
meant
really
that
matter.
it might have happened in like an early issue
Oh,
of Super
okay.
Sons.
I to be honest with you, in terms of not just unforced errors, but horrific editorial decisions. The death of Leon Harper, I think, goes up there with One More Day
I think it's worse.
as just a horrific decision that pisses off your fan base and drives them away.
I would
That's
say it's worse because the ramifications have been worse, and I don't think like that corner of their universe is ever recovered. Because the thing is, One More Day does suck, but they didn't kill Mary Jane.
the reason that I put it in One More Day on similar footing. One, they were both. It was utterly pointless to do, and number two, it was full bore character assassination because Joe Quesada was like, I like Spider Man better
Well,
when we in high school.
that
And it's
that
like,
was a writer's thing, and the funny thing is like all these writers like, well, it's hard to write him married and blah blah blah, and like we went back in high school. Do you know he graduated from high school in issue 28.
yeah, it's hard to write him as married. Then get better. Much as I don't listen to him anymore, the Jim Cornette line of creative doesn't have anything for you, that sounds like creative's not doing their damn
Well,
job.
I don't understand. So I don't understand because Dan Didio was big on this. You can't have people be married. Like when I was like a teenager reading the books, like them being married didn't matter to me. It's like the
It-
it's like the I always hate like when I go back and watch some cartoon or something or like they talk about it like when they put like the kid's sidekick in that's like super annoying with like the cutesy animal and old stuff and like well
yeah.
they did this so kids would watch it. I'm like when I was a kid like I didn't give a shit about the kid's sidekick. I just want
If I'm watching Super Friends, I don't want to see Marvin and Wendy.
yes. I
I want
don't
to see superheroes doing super stuff.
like you're not gonna imagine yourself as Marvin and Wendy. You're gonna imagine yourself as a super friend.
If okay, here, yeah, I will have a counterpoint to the teen sidekick, to the smaller sidekick thing. Mary and Captain Marvel Jr. were younger, like younger, smaller sidekicks to the original Captain, but they worked. But that worked for the original Captain too. Why? Because he was a kid who said the magic word. So you, as a kid, could be a self insert for that and
Well,
think about
and
how cool that was, as opposed to being like, oh, here's Speedy, Green Arrow's ward, who stands over there
well, they got their
and,
spin-off
and
title
gets
too, but
hooked on heroin.
like I think like even like Robin, I don't think necessarily. So like the thing with Robin is he did increase sales a lot. That's why sidekicks got so popular. But like I think he worked so well because he balanced Batman out in those early books. Like it added some levity that the book needed in those early issues.
It also gave a someone it gave someone for Batman to explain stuff to.
And it
Um,
humanized him more too.
yeah. So here's my I think the best way, oddly enough, the best way that I can say how Robin improves Batman is if you go to the animated series and go to um it's the first Riddler episode. Um the Labyrinth, the Maze, the
In the Minotaur.
Challenge of the Minotaur, something like that. Yeah, it's that one. What happens is Robin knows some about it, and so he's able to contribute. But when Batman figures stuff out, he's able to explain it because Robin's like, "What is this?" And Batman explains what it is. Like they work well together to get to the
Well, and
get to your end game.
I think they made an interesting creative choice in the animated series because the Dick Grayson in the animated series is probably about 20, 21 years old. Like he's a much more established adult.
Or late teens,
He's
early
in
20s,
college.
somewhere in there.
He's a college
Oh,
age.
you're right. You're right. You're right. He is.
So he's probably like because remember they did that one with the Scarecrow where his friend got the fear toxin and he
Yeah,
was the
you're right.
quarterback of yeah.
The
I think
Gotham
that might have
Knights or
been
whatever.
yeah. So he's like between probably like we'll say between 19 and 21. So he's a much more established like he's like
It also makes
he's like new Teen Titans Dick Grayson. Like
it makes a lot more sense for that Robin to be rolling with Batman than like pre-puberty Robin or
well
something like that.
and the early Batman the animated series is very heavily inspired and taking from like the Denny O'Neil Alan Davis
Mm-hmm.
Batman, which in that era, Robin is in college when they're doing
Yeah,
his solo stuff, and he's not around as
which
much.
goes a long way. Yeah.
Yeah, but I do have all the Astro City books. It's just getting to things.
Well, I heartily encourage it. Um, Astro City Life in the City, Astro City Confession, Astro City Family Album. They've got a Fantastic Four analog that's like the best Fantastic Four analog I've ever seen. Um, the Tarnished Angel's really good. Um, oh, don't let it get away from me because there's Winged Victory is is an interesting character who's in it, who's kind of the Wonder Woman analog. Um, the I don't remember what their Justice League, their super team name. Um, oh, dude, oh god, there's this great story in it that's in this first one called The Scoop, where this reporter sees this whole crazy thing go down, and his boss is like, "We can't write this." He goes, "Why not?" He goes, "We can't verify any of it." And he's like, but what about he goes, "Look, man, you can only write what we can verify." And so this whole big story ends up being like a 3 sentence column.
So I'm gonna throw
The
a
first
recommend of a new book when you're done.
Okay, the first family is the Fantastic Four analog. Um oh, what's his name? What's his name? Oh my gosh. You have this guy who's kind of like a mix of Batman and Booster Gold, maybe. Very Booster Gold attitude, but I can't remember his Crackerjack. He's a fun character. There's an alien invasion plot line that's really good. Uh, da, 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 da. Is it the Battalion? Is that what he called it? God, now I'm stuck on this. I'm looking for it because I really just want to find it. Honor Guard. That's what it was. And so there's lots of original characters who you'll recognize some of the standard tropes out of, but they're written really, really well.
That's cool. So my recommend is a modern book that you can get in the store. So this is Savage Sword of Conan.
Okay.
So now this is actually a magazine size of a magazine.
Okay.
This issue actually has a Roy Thomas story in it because he did the original
Okay.
Conan. So then when you open it up, just making sure there's no boobs. This is like this is the interiors.
Okay, so they're all that grayscale sketch style.
So it's like because the original Savage Sword I think was a black and white magazine, so they're kind of recreating that. It comes out I think every other month.
Okay.
And stories are pretty good. The actual regular Titan Comics Conan's pretty good. I just got the 4 issues of the Solomon Kane miniseries, which I need to read. But
okay,
I think that is it for this week.
Yeah,
we were gonna do more comics talk, but we really got down the rabbit hole.
we did.
But I think it was
in a good way.
Yeah,
in a good way.
No, rabbit holes are usually good on this show. But I think that is it for this week. Thank you for joining us as always. This has been Shad and Brad. We've been in 2 corners this week, and you've been in the 3rd and 4th possibly. So thank you for watching as always, and we will catch you next time.